The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to Gate City Chronicles. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and today we're going to be talking about swimmer safety. And my guest is Carolanne.
Carolanne, Caron.
Carolanne, Caron.
Yep.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, swimmer safety. You know, right now we're talking about the Olympics. We see the amazing, USA team doing an amazing job, and so, hey, why not talk about swimmer safety?
Exactly. Yeah, it's always a good time to talk about swimming safety.
Yeah. So you've been a lifelong coach at swimmer safety. You teach, you coach.
I do. I've been coaching for about 5 years, but I've been swimming my whole life. My mom decided when we were little that she didn't know how to swim. So we spent a lot of time around water, and if anything were to happen to me or my brothers, she wouldn't know what to do to help us. So we were going to learn how to swim before we got near any water.
Okay, and so you're passing that on as well, obviously. So
yes,
you wrote a couple books: Water Safety with SWIMMY and SWIMMY'S Water Safety Coloring Book. Do you use these in your coaching?
I use them when I go to visit preschools, nursery schools. It's a really good tool for parents and caregivers to be able to talk to children about being safer around the water. Both the books teach 10 really simple rules that children can follow when they get close to the water. And that's not just pools, that's lakes, oceans, even the bathtub. We need to be aware of water safety. And it's really a tool for the parents to be able to say, oh, remember what we read in the book. SWIMMY says you have to wear your life jacket. And it's a good way for parents to reinforce the rules, but not have to worry about, oh, I'm always nagging my kids about following the rules. It's SWIMMY says you have to follow the rules.
Now, we've heard tragedies year after year after year after year. Children falling into pools, or I just turned your back just for a minute and they're gone.
Yes.
Do you know any statistics on that? How often does this happen?
So unfortunately, this summer it's happened too often. We've seen just lately even adults getting into trouble, getting in the water. We just lost 2 people from Merrimack who were out paddleboarding, and they weren't wearing a life vest. And recently, over the past couple days, we just lost a gentleman who jumped in to save his dog who jumped off a boat. Right. And he ended up drowning also. I
believe his last name was Savoy. Yeah. And what happened? You know, no life jacket? Or did he have? That's interesting.
So personal flotation devices are very important, and that's one of the #1 rules that I stress. When I talk about the 10 rules, it's actually rule number 4, and that's that if you don't know how to swim, you always wear your life jacket if you're just playing around in the water. And you always, always wear it on a boat. And I always tell children that they can tell their parents that Coach Caron says that you need to wear your life jacket.
Right.
And the children all laugh at that, but it's true. Adults need to wear their life jacket just as much as children do.
Yeah, we hear reports all summer. There were people that were doing, you know how they ski, and but not with the ski. They've got the little flotation device in the back, and they're holding on.
Yes.
And even with a flotation device, they perished because apparently they hit their head or they weren't paying attention. But somehow the device came off them. And so the combination of being unconscious and not having their life jacket fully secured, they died. So it's interesting. So tell us a little bit about how did you begin to write the books? What was the whole impetus for that?
So water safety with swimming actually started with the 10 rules. I came up with the rules by researching different organizations that have water safety rules, like the Red Cross, the boating agencies, the Coast Guard, and came up with 10 rules that were very common to each of the agencies and were easy for kids to understand. And then developed posters about the rules, but found that it wasn't really a good way for the children to learn the rules. So I decided to come up with a rhyme, and that's where the book came from. The book is actually a rhyme of the 10 rules so that it's easy to remember.
Okay, and the rhyme is?
So there's actually several. It actually starts out with some sun safety, and we start out with sunscreen. So for example, rule number 1 says water safety is so fun in the pool or lake or tub. On a nice and sunny day, sunscreen on right away. This is the first of our rules. Now it's time for the pool.
Aha, and that's rule number 1 on this.
That's rule number 1, and then we go from there.
So we have Swimmy right here. We didn't want him to be left out. But, so when you teach classes, do you take swimming with you?
I do.
Yeah?
Yep. The kids love swimming. He is actually a lifeguard.
Okay.
So he is able to watch the kids while they swim. And Swimmy has 5 friends, and they're all different abilities, different levels in their swimming.
Oh, okay.
And we introduce them to the children in the beginning of the book. We let them know what level they are and what their abilities are, and then what their expectations are as far as how and where they can go in the pool.
I see a starfish.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What level is the starfish?
So the starfish is our red level, which is our beginner level.
Okay.
There's one underneath it, and that is the seahorse.
Seahorse, yeah.
Sandy is our starfish, and he's starting to learn to swim, so he stays in the shallow end and always has an adult next to him.
Ah, very good.
So the kids are learning that even Swimmy has friends, and his friends have rules too. And Swimmy makes sure that Sandy the starfish stays in the shallow end.
How long did it take you to write this?
To actually write the poem took me a couple of months.
Yeah.
The publishing process was a little bit more intense.
Right, you had it illustrated.
Yes.
Nice illustration on the front.
Thank you. Yep, that's my friend, Rebecca Laidlaw. She illustrated it for me, and she does, she takes all my ideas and makes them come alive in the books.
Great.
And she does pretty much anything that I ask her to do,
Right.
she can do. For example, our starfish actually wears his life jacket in rule number 4. And so he put a little life jacket on our starfish.
And look at the cute little eyes on him. That's funny.
So that's rule number 4. When you're on a boat, wear a life jacket that floats. If you cannot swim too well, wear it in the pool as well. Rule number 4 will be the best one for you and me.
So where do you teach? Do you go to homes? Do you teach at the Y? Do you teach how does that work? You go to preschools?
For the water safety program, I visit local preschools, nursery schools. I've done in-home schools. I've done visits at the library. And we'll read the book, and then we talk about the rules. And then I have an excellent DVD that's put out by Disney that reinforces most of the rules that I teach.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So it really ties it together. But then as far as lessons, I have a facility that's attached to my house, and I teach right there.
Interesting. Well, off camera, we were talking about triathletes, and I thought, I'd like to do that. And you said you could train for that. You can help somebody train for a triathlon.
I can.
Really?
Yep, and I do. I have taken people who really want to do a triathlon, but are really scared of the swim portion,
Right.
and especially the open water, and help them get water acclimated, take them through whichever stroke they want to learn,
Interesting.
and then help them get to race day.
What are some of the things that they would run up against if you're competing and you jump into the water? What is the most common stroke? Is it I don't know, what would be their? Do they all use breaststroke? Overhead? What do they?
So most people will use freestyle.
Okay.
Yep, which is what you're thinking of with
Right.
the overhead. Some people do prefer the breaststroke because they prefer to keep their arms in the water, keeps them a little bit warmer. Also gives them the advantage of looking forward every time they breathe. I don't recommend backstroke because you can't see where you're going.
Right.
And that's a little bit of a disadvantage, especially in triathlon. But I have taught people side stroke as a secondary stroke. And I always recommend that everybody have a secondary stroke just in case you get a cramp or something goes wrong and you can't continue with your primary stroke.
Right. So you don't have the life jacket when you're out there,
Right.
obviously. So yeah, if you run into trouble, do you coach on that as well? Then what happens if you get a cramp? I've never got a cramp when I swim.
That's good.
But it can kill you, right? If you don't know what to do. I mean,
Yes.
people die from that.
Yep.
And there's a way to avoid obviously dying. So what do you tell them if you're feeling like you're getting a cramp? You're in the middle of the pond,
Yep.
or the lake or wherever you're at. What do you do?
So the first thing to remember is to breathe, because breathing is very important
Yeah.
in swimming. And then you really need to talk to yourself and relax, okay? Try and work out the cramp if you can, either through, for example, a lot of runners will get cramps in their calves when they're swimming. So I would recommend like flexing your foot to try and work out the cramp. And then if you can't, just try and stretch your leg out, but without kicking for a little bit to see if that helps. Now in an event, you're always going to have lifeguards or spotters, along the route, so you can always go over to their kayak or canoe or whatever they're in. You can hold on, you can work it out if you need to. And then if you're just doing a practice run, of course you're not going to ever swim by yourself.
Right.
You're always going to have a buddy or at least somebody watching you. So at that point, whoever was there with you could help to, keep you calm, maybe help you get rid of the cramp. But at that point, if it's not going away, I definitely recommend going back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So have you taught triathlons? Many of them?
I've had very many triathletes. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. Probably off the top of my head, 45 or 50.
Now, most people feel, hey, I can swim, but can you really swim well?
Yeah.
And you teach them how to swim well.
We do. Yeah, and it's also a matter of being able to handle the stress of the event too. Even good swimmers will get in the water and they'll come and see me afterwards and say, wow, I didn't expect either that many people in the water with me or to get hit or get kicked or to lose my breath or to have even just a fish swimming under me take my breath away and surprise me.
Yeah, it could be, if you're
Yeah.
not used to it. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I have a whole seminar on what to expect in the open water and how to work through issues like that.
That's interesting. What is the typical distance triathlons do? Is there a traditional mile, half mile, 2 mile?
Yeah, so for sprints is usually a quarter to a third of a mile. And then an Olympic is usually like 0.9 mile swim. And then you have working all the way up to a full Ironman triathlon, which is 2.4 miles.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a long way to run.
I think so, but I'm a swimmer.
Well, my wife and I, we run, and she does the 5 mile, 3 to 5, and I'm doing the 2.5. I'm 2.5. I get so bored. So even with the headphones, But anyway, I'd like to try one of those mini triathlons, you know.
Yeah.
I think I could swim. The biking part seems easy.
We have a couple good ones in the area that I can hook you up with.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple of friends that do it, and I'm thinking, you know, before I get too old, you know, instead of doing a regular marathon, I'd like to do that.
There you go.
But back to the water safety. So I assume then you take kids there as well, or the children come to your place and they learn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. My youngest student so far has been 18 months old.
Well, what, you know, we've seen on TV, and recently something went viral where a little child was put in the pool. Mm-hmm. The mother just let it drop forward, and it went back on its back, and it kicked, and you know, they said that's how they trained the child in case she ever fell into the pool.
Yep.
That was part of the training. What do you think of that?
So that method,
Yeah.
I've heard of it, and I've been questioned about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, it's a very aggressive method, and that's not the method that I teach.
Mm-hmm.
I do teach those skills, just not in the same way that they do.
Right.
I just felt, I did look into it when I first opened my facility. I just felt that it was a little aggressive for where I wanted to go with my teaching.
It looked it. It was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard it's very effective, but it made me as an instructor a little uncomfortable. So.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's okay to start that young, though. I'm very young. You said 18 months?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. There are some programs that start a little bit younger than that, but the American Pediatric Association really recommends instruction starting at 18 months. There are water safety and water acclimation techniques that I have given parents who have younger children to get them started acclimating to the water. But the younger you can acclimate your children to the water, the better. And of course, then you have to watch out for, well, they're acclimated to the water, so
they're
now they're not afraid of the water.
Right.
And now they're a little bit more daring. And that's where the water safety program really comes in to make sure that the kids know what the rules are.
And generally at 18 months, 2 years, they might get the concept of some of this. This is probably a little bit older for them, but what are you teaching them at that young age? I mean, they're getting acclimated, but are you teaching them to kick, to paddle, to lay in their back, or how does that? What are you trying to instill in them at such a young age, other than just getting used to the water?
Yeah, so it really depends on each child. If they come to me and they're already comfortable in the water, and we don't have to go through, just getting water on their face or getting splashed in the face. If they're good with that, then we do start working on basic floats. We do some gliding and getting them used to getting into the horizontal position instead of being on a vertical position, because they've just started to learn to walk, so they want to be upright,
right?
even in the water.
Yeah.
But then we bring them back to the horizontal position, and then once they're comfortable with that, then we can start working on getting some basic kicking going. We start blowing bubbles right away. So
It's gotta be fun.
yeah, it's fun, but then they really realize that, okay, we have to start blowing above the water, or else we get a big drink of water, and that's, of course, yucky. So.
Yeah, a lot of times we hear of, a lot of people like to go to the beach and stuff, and we hear about riptides and things of that nature. So do you teach people how to survive that as well?
It's not really in the curriculum right now, but if somebody were to specifically ask about that, I get that question occasionally from triathletes who are going to be doing an event in the ocean.
Okay.
But the race manager should have their event far away from riptides.
Right.
But in that case, I just reassure them and let them know that they need to swim
Sideways.
Yep, swim with the shore as opposed to trying to swim into the shore. You'd swim parallel to until you get to the land. Yep.
So where do people buy this book? If can you get it online?
Yes. So Water Safety with Swimmy and Swimmy's Water Safety Coloring Book are both available at watersafetywithswimmy.com. It's also on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com.
Interesting.
Yep.
And how did you get that published? Was that really difficult to do? There are a lot of people that come to you and they want to publish a little book, and some people self-publish, but you actually had a publisher take this up.
Yes. So my first round of Water Safety with Swimming was self-published. And then after working with it for a year and a half, I decided that there were a few things that I wanted to change, and I also got some endorsements. So I wanted to add those to the book cover, and I got a publishing house to pick it up. And
Nice.
so now I'm working with them. And
Great.
yeah.
Well, it goes national. It becomes
Yeah.
a bestseller.
Yeah. Well, it's really a book that everybody can use, even if they don't live around water. Like we were talking about, just a bathtub is a water hazard. Never leave your kids alone in the bathtub.
And I find it, I know that it sounds silly, but, those little 5-gallon pails,
Yes.
they find children, they're just curious, they look in and they fall in and they drown. It's
Yep.
like, kidding.
1 to 2 inches is all it takes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So,
even a 5-gallon pail,
Yep.
water safety is very, very important. So wonderful. And how do people find, are you booked? Are they banging at your door to learn how to learn how to swim at your place? What's the process of getting in touch with you and booking an event or a time to learn?
yep. So if anybody wants to learn, they can just give me a call. And they can talk to me about where they are, what their goals are, whether it's themselves or their child. And right now we're booking for the fall. So right now I'm booking my current students, and then the following week I'll be booking new students. So once I find out how many spots I have available, I do have a short waiting list right now.
Nice. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember when I was a kid, my dad used to take us to Beaver Lake in Derry. And, I had the float. We'd go out to the raft. It was all kind of fun stuff. And I remember him telling me that he had a friend that he tried to teach how to swim. And he said, he pushed him off the boat. It was his way of, sink or swim type of thing.
Yes.
And the guy sank to the bottom.
Oh, no.
And of course,
Is he okay?
Yeah, he was okay. He
Okay.
was fine. But my dad had to go save him. Don't do that.
No, that's definitely the wrong way to do it.
He just thought, and he said it was the funniest thing because, the guy was okay, but he was actually walking on the bottom. Are some people not prone to float? Because he said the guy was walking on the bottom of where he was at.
Yes.
And that's got to be harder for people like that to learn how to swim.
There are some people that it's harder for them to learn where their float is, but everybody can float. It's just a matter of finding out what position you need to be in and where your body needs to be in the water to be able to make that happen. Yeah. And I found a lot of people with upper body development, big muscles on the upper body, tend to have more trouble than somebody who's more evenly developed musculature.
It's funny that you say that. I remember seeing a movie, I think it was with Kevin Costner, and it had to do with Navy SEALs or the Coast Guard. And the buff, guy, I'm going to be fine. Well, like 2 minutes into the swim, he's all tired.
Yeah.
He's all tired because he's all muscle. And just because you're muscular doesn't mean you're going to float.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You can float. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of finding the right position.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that's one of the things that I do at Winning Swimming, where I teach, is we find that position for every person because everybody's a little bit different. So it might not be the textbook, oh, you just need to do this and then you'll float. Not everybody falls into that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we see people, they're floating on their back, they're not moving, they're just floating. And I've never been able to do that. I always have to do a little kick.
Okay.
Just a little kick just to keep myself going. But I figure, well, it's because I'm chunky, but whatever.
It could be all here too.
It could. There's not much there.
Oh,
So.
no.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Are there any other final thoughts that you'd like to share with the viewers? How to get in touch with you again? We already said that, but.
Yep. So the most important thing is just to remember that water safety is for everybody. It's not just for children, but a great way for parents and caregivers to talk to their children about water safety is the Water Safety with SWIMMY program. And whether that just be the book or the coloring book or having us come do a presentation to the kids, any one of those would work. So it's watersafetywithswimmy.com. And from there you can contact us.
And you're relatively local. You're in Merrimack?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So not any close to Babusick Lake, or are you around that area? Or?
Yeah, closer to Lake Natticook.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank
All
you.
right. And if you want to learn water safety, contact her and find out. If you have some children, you want to get them involved with water sports, but you want to make sure that they're going to be safe, this is a great way to make sure that they're safe. So if you got a story and you want to come on the show, contact me at gatecitychronicles@gmail.com. Until next week, thanks for watching. Thank you for watching Gate City Chronicles, and we want to thank our sponsor, Aardvark Cleaning. They've been a sponsor for quite a few years now, and we appreciate them being a sponsor. And if you want to be a guest on our show, contact accessnashua@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your story. Until next week, thanks for watching.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.